Hello there. Thank you for joining my Views and News live chat session. It's 3 a.m. here where I am these days. I was about to sleep, but I want to keep you updated. An important development. I did a video a few hours ago about Ethiopian government's statement regarding Pretoria deal. We were waiting for response. Now response has come from two sides, from Colonel Demeke Zewdu and from Tigray interim president Getachew Reda. So I wanted to share what these two sides said about Ethiopian federal government. It seems there are serious issues. Now, serious issues between the federal government and Tigray interim government, federal government and Amhara groups based in Volkai, Thumaira Sagade. What did Colonel Demeke Zewdu say? What did Getachew say? Details for you in this video, but let me welcome all of you. People say, Sajid, you waste time welcoming, but it's a good way of remembering your names. It's a good way of getting to know you. So please let me do that. That is how I feel connected with you people. Marfus is the first one who commented. Then Yeneo, trustworthy, Jabir Siraj. Then someone's name is in Amharic, I cannot read that. AH, Emmanuel Yimane, Mooney, saying I have been kicked out of my house. Chilote Gatu, again an Amharic name. Uzil Ganer, Kor Dang. Habisha Pets, Jabir Siraj from Tigray, one of my long term viewers. Tisfaldet Hapte, then Mihari Vendor, right? Mihari, you have joined this session now. You complain that you miss live chat sessions. Moses Mihari Kase. Now, uh, let me start. Let me keep it brief. Federal government issued a statement today. Today means on Monday. And federal government proposed a solution about how to resolve the deadlock over contested territories. Federal government proposed a four-state solution. Firstly, return of IDPs, then election of local administrations, then ENDF taking over the areas, and lastly, referendum. And Ethiopian federal government in that statement raised questions about Tigray's standing army, that still large number of Tigray combatants are armed with small weapons, and maybe Tigray has heavy weapons too. So that was a very strong statement from federal government. We are waiting for response from the Tigray interim government, that is it ready to agree with the 4-point solution to the conflict. Thank you, Mihari, for buying this sticker. So, federal government played a very smart move. It said that the two parties, Tigray and Amhara, had discussions. They have had discussions and they have agreed on these points. That is why we were waiting for official response from the groups in Amhara and Tigray. I think Amhara regional government is Prosperity Party government, so and that government has been on board with the federal government. I think it talked about the idea of referendum a few months ago rather. We are waiting mainly for response from Volkite-based Colonel Demeke Zewdu and Tigray interim government. Firstly, what did Demeke Zewdu say in response to this statement of Ethiopian federal government? Demeke Zewdu says he was never consulted about the solution, the four-state solution which was made public by Ethiopian federal government today. He was never consulted, which makes sense, I think. Demeke Zewdu was not part of Pretoria deal negotiations. He was not part of the negotiations which happened after that between Tigray and Amhara leaders. So what he is saying makes sense. But what is his response to this solution? He has rejected it. He said, no, no, it is unthinkable. He says that the interim government put in place in Volkait cannot be dismantled. We will not allow this government to be dismantled. We have achieved this after so many sacrifices. And he is the one who is opposing the return of IDPs to Finos. So, Colonel Demeke Zewdu has rejected federal government's four-stage solution to the disputed territories. Someone is saying no sound. Any problem with the sound? Sound is okay. Sound is okay. Okay. Aman Vanore is saying Demeke Zewdu is nothing to consult. I'll respond to it. Let me finish. Colonel is heading a militia there, connection with Eritrea too. He can easily form a new Fano group. So we cannot just dismiss him as nobody. So, response from Colonel Demeke Zewdu has come. He is not going to agree to disbandment of his government there. Now, Tigray, long response. Getachew appeared in an interview on Tigray TV. Just a few minutes ago, I finished watching that interview. Getachew has made some revelations. It seems Getachew's government and Ethiopian federal government are poles apart. They are not on the same page when it comes to finding a solution to the deadlock over the disputed territories. What is Getachew saying? Firstly, Getachew said that when Pretoria deal was being negotiated in South Africa on the 2nd of November at 3 p.m., Ethiopian federal government's negotiation team came up with a point to be made part of the deal that Tigray interim government will have no control over Volkait, Humera, Sag, Decorum, Alamata. He said that his team refused to agree with this point. His team said that no matter whether Pretoria deal is achieved or not, this point cannot be accepted by Tigray. And Tigray proposed that Pretoria deal should state that the issues will be resolved in accordance with Ethiopian constitution. So, and back then, Getachew says that this proposal came from Amhara quarters, who wanted to ensure that Tigray agrees that it will have no say over the demonstrations in the disputed territories. But Getachew says that Tigray's team refused to agree. First point. Secondly, he has proposed a solution, or rather we can say he has responded to federal government's four-state solution. First point mentioned by the Ethiopian federal government was that in the first stage, IDPs will return. He has agreed with that. He says around 1 million are in Tigray IDPs. Yes, they should return. But, very important point, he said these IDPs should be given confidence. How can they return? Those who committed atrocities against these IDPs, they're still in those areas. I think he was implying that Colonel Demeke Zewdu-led government is still in Volkait, Humera Sagade, and in southern part as well. So how can IDPs return while they are in danger? They could be in danger again if they return. So In principle, he has agreed with the idea of return of IDPs, but not in the presence of current administration in contested territories. So, first point of difference between the federal government and Tigray government. Federal government wants the start of IDPs immediately from Tigray to the territories. Tigray wants interim governments to go first, to be dismantled first, or that Ethiopian federal government should make the interim government leaders dysfunctional. First point. Second point, election. The point mentioned by the federal government, second point, was that administrators must be elected in these territories after the return of IDPs. Getachew has agreed, but he says that election should be held not just in these territories, but in entire Tigray. So he is proposing IDPs should return, and then in entire Tigray election should be held. And importantly, Tigray interim government should have control over these disputed territories. Ethiopian federal government in its statement proposed that federal forces will be in charge of all affairs, security, others in these territories. But Getachew wants Tigray interim government to be in charge in disputed territories. Third point, pointer, almost all 4 points, there is no, almost on all these 4 points, there is no agreement between the federal government and Tigray interim government. So, third point, that there should be election, but election in entire Tigray, and interim government should have control over these territories. Last point, very important, referendum. Federal government proposed that referendum should be held in these territories. Getachew says that his government, interim government, has no mandate to order, to administer, to approve a referendum in these territories. According to Ethiopian constitution, referendum can only be approved in a region by the regional council of that region. And at this point of time, Tigray has no regional council. Tigray only has interim government and Getachew's cabinet. It has no council, regional council, because regional government was disbanded. Under Pretoria deal, regional government was disbanded. So Tigray interim government is not entitled to approve holding of a referendum here. Referendum can only be held, according to Getachew, if in entire Tigray election is held, new regional council is formed, and that regional council then can make decision. It can vote and decide whether to hold referendum in these territories or not. So you can see that positions of Getachew Reda's Tigray interim government and Ethiopian federal government are, I wouldn't say poles apart, but they're not close. And I have been saying there should be another Pretoria. The Pretoria means new talks should be held, because now we are seeing that, and Getachew, by the way, pointed toward this thing too, that when Tigray and Amhara leaders met, he said back then Amhara leaders wanted to renegotiate Pretoria. But Tigray was not interested. Tigray wants this Pretoria to be implemented. So this is the situation, not a good news overall, that we are seeing now clear frictions between the federal government and Tigray interim government, federal government and Colonel Demeke's Zewdu administration. And Getachew raised another point too. He said that we are aware that some demographic changes have been done in the dispute in Volkai Thumera Sagade, and we won't accept any of these changes. We want these territories to return to 2020 position. So if anyone was brought into these territories to change demographic balance, Amharas, if they were brought, Tigray won't accept them. These are so difficult issues to be handled that how will these parties agree? I mean, Getachew wants implementation of Pretoria deal, no referendum at this point of time, no return of IDPs, disbandment of regional structure there, interim structure there, election in entire Tigray, and extension of Tigray interim government's control to these territories. It's a very difficult situation now. Let's hope that there is no relapse into a conflict, but that is what I have learned listening to Getachew, that Ethiopian federal government and Tigray interim government, once again they'll have to sit. Otherwise, like we're seeing a conflict in the Amhara region, we could start seeing conflict between the federal government and Tigray interim government. So this is the situation which I have understood and I want to share with you. If you have any questions, I have a few minutes. Mihari, Sajid, how do you think this dispute over these territories will end? I want to hear your take on it. Honestly, Mihari, it's difficult to say now how it will end because positions of two sides are not any close. I think they should have to sit. They should have to sit and renegotiate a little. That is the way forward. Otherwise, all have their positions, no consensus. How can solution be found? Should Ethiopia annex Somaliland? Many is proposing. Come on, many. You have so many internal problems in Ethiopia. Don't talk about annexing other territories. Now, people say, one comment, someone is saying, you cannot negotiate a negotiated. You cannot, people would say, Sajid, why are you proposing renegotiation? So you are opening a Pandora's box. When I say a new Pretoria is needed, there is a reason behind this suggestion because Pretoria was not a comprehensive deal. If you remember, when that deal was signed, I said that it was a deal of capitulation, firstly, and secondly, that thorny issues were not addressed. Back then, I said, if you remember, that Pretoria deal failed to find solutions to thorny issues, which sooner or later will turn into challenges. And that is what is happening now. That those issues which were left to be settled later, while Pretoria was agreed, are now confronting the parties. So you need to have new negotiations and public negotiations. Problem is that leaders meet, they agree on some points in private in engagements, people not taken on board. I think publicly discussion should be held with involvement of Tigray, Amhara, Ethiopian federal government. Three parties should sit and find a way out of this deadlock. Otherwise, things could turn into more tensions in coming days. Now, I think I should leave because it's 3:24 a.m. here. So, my apologies. I won't be able to take your questions. But tomorrow, I'll take your questions. I mean, on Tuesday, I'll take your questions in a live chat session. It's very late here, so I have to sleep. Tomorrow, we'll talk in detail about the Pretoria, about federal government's position, about Tigray's position, and Colonel Demeke Zewdu administration's position. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining this live chat session. Thank you. Bye bye.